This is a big reason that one item can sell for far more than an identical item just like it. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to talk a little bit about why some things are worth more than the other, even though they're identical items. There's a lot of things tied to vintage and collectibles that would be called provenance. It's history, association of some of the items that you can find. It's a huge reason why some items sell for so much money. Being able to tie it to a specific person, a specific place, a specific year is key and essential information that can help increase the price of what you're selling. We're going to hop over and look at a few things here and talk a little bit about provenance and how to get a little more out of some things just by being able to find out the proper information, find out who owned it, where it came from, and all of those sorts of things. I'm also going to show you some items with some true and honest provenance, and we'll explain the difference between that and some of the more common identification information that may come with something. Now here's just a basic example of something that you might find that has some basic provenance on it. Now this will help you identify the item. It may not help you with establishing for sure that's where it came from if this is all you find. Chances are research may be able to help you further identify something like this as opposed to not. If you just found these without this piece of paper here, again, it's just an old tag. The tag itself is at least 100 years old. This is something I do run into like this from collectors. Now, I am showing you buttons today, but it doesn't have to be buttons. It can be anything you find. I have found provenance with books, records, toys, games, you name it. There is some provenance that could be established with any type of item that you find. Now this again is just buttons because I happen to have these here to show you an example of what I am talking about. Now here's another example right here. Now what this is a actual sales ticket. Canadian Militia, D for Dragoons. So this is a Canadian Militia Dragoons button, and it has a 10 count. So this is actually a tag for these. Now I know where this one came from. E and W are the initials of the person who found this button. They found it June 27th of 1909. So this was in someone's collection, as this is marked just like this, since 1909. For me, that's good provenance for most of these things. If you can establish the original owner who put this tag on there to show that, yes, it is legit, that is what this is. Now, I can look this one up in a book, so I know without a doubt this button is that case. This button does date to the Victorian era, all the way back to about 1870. So this does help with provenance. But it's not the real type of provenance you are looking for, in my opinion. What you want are very, very specific ones. Now, this sort of provenance will help you to identify it, but it won't be able to establish where it came from or anything else because there's no full-fledged signature. There's no other identifying marks on this at all. Now, let's show you the next step up for provenance. Now here's a dug button. This was dug out of the ground, and it says 15th Regiment button from Canada, St. John's, dug up June 1909. This regiment stayed at St. John's about 1850. Now on the back, it actually has the person and the date it was found, July 6, 1909, from RCT. That is the person who found it. Now, this one has definitely been in the ground, as you can see. It's probably someone who digging or something in that general area. Now, this one here, though it does give you a regiment and where it was found, that will help increase the price to some extent because those who buy dug items like this will want to know where it's found. They'll want to know the provenance of where the item was recovered at to help add to the value. They can place it to a very specific time frame, a very specific place in general. So these sorts of things will help, again, increase your price. Again, I'm just showing you buttons. This can go for anything, whether you find a coat, a uniform, a shirt, anything you could imagine. There could be some provenance. You could find a paperweight that was owned by somebody famous. You could find a book that was owned by somebody famous. All of those things add provenance to it. Now, there's one more area for provenance, and that is one that is specifically named to a very specific person or thing. This is a very specific one. This one states that it came from the tunic of Ed Clifton's brother, who served in the English army during the Crimean War time frame. And again, there's some other information with a name. It's got a date of 1905 on the back of this. This is the real deal. So this one here, I could get some better information and track down Eric Clifton's brother and figure out where, when, and all that sort of thing he served. The Crimean War has great records on it. The British government kept records of everything. So this button on its own, without the provenance, without being able to say where it came from, won't carry that much value. As a regular artillery button, this button's probably worth about 10 or so bucks. Victorian era may add an extra 5 at most, bringing it up to 15. But with the provenance, with this being able to be ID'd to a very specific person, and it was ID'd a long time ago, well over 100 years ago, that can add to the value of this. If you dig up the record, like the military record as I was saying on this person, I may be able to get, say, 50 bucks or better for this exact same piece, even though the standard button without this little piece of paper here, without the provenance, may be worth nothing hardly comparatively. So this is a big plus for anything. Now, I know where this came from. So not only do I have this piece of provenance here, but I've got other things from it, and I know who actually acquired this. So I can give a great provenance with this. I can back up this statement here. Now, just because someone says it's from somewhere, that isn't good enough to get provenance. What you would want is something more like a notarized statement, a legal document of any kind they can supply that states that. If you're buying something from a very famous person's estate or something like that, get a note that states where the items came from, acquired from. Get somebody from the estate to actually physically sign it for you, whether it's the company running the estate sale or anything else like that. You need more backup information to actually be able to prove things like this. I run into things that have provenance all the time, but whether it's good or bad provenance, you're going to have to decide on your own. I don't trust everything I read on the items. I've got to dig into them. Like these 4 pieces here. This one I am 100% sure it is from the Piccadilly Hotel after digging into it. This one is obviously exactly what it states it is. This one is a 15th Regiment button. Chances are it did come from that area because that is where they were at that time from the 1850s. Like this one here, this is the correct type of button that would have been on this person's uniform during the Crimean War. It would have been the red colored coats that you would see that go all the way back to the Revolutionary War. So provenance means a heck of a lot to these items. Now, selling them wise, I sell them with these actual pieces of paper. They are going to be shipped as you see them. These 2 specifically. Now, these 2 here, chances are won't really worry about the paper. This one here, though, helps me to identify it. Without this one here, I wouldn't know that that's the Piccadilly Hotel in London. So whatever you find documentation with any of the collectibles that you find out there in the wild, there's always a chance that that documentation could add to the value of your items. I always, if there's something that comes with it of any type of paperwork for no matter what I buy, I always grab it. I ask, can I get that too? Many times when I'm buying something from a famous person's estate, I will try to get some sort of documentation proving that it was bought there. Maybe it's a photograph as well as a signed statement from the company running it or anything along that line. A photo from inside the estate sale showing other collectibles that were very obvious from that person's estate. All of those are things that I've done in the past to establish a provenance for many of the items I am selling. Again, because that will increase the value of them. So if you get the opportunity to get more evidence as to who owns something very famous or who owned it specifically, like a soldier's name or something like that, always take the time to get it. I always delve in and ask, well, if there's something interesting something at an estate sale, for example. Well, do you know where it came from? Do you have any provenance? Do you have any background or history on some of these items? Was the owner of the estate like in the military or whatever the case may be? These are all important information that can help you to, again, not only price it, but establish a provenance which will get you more money. Well, there you have it. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live.
Is there another planet with a cereal as big as honeycomb?
Inhabitant of Vesuvius!
The starship Honeycomb.
Our cereal is bigger than yours.
Impossible, Earthlings.
We'll prove it.
If you fail, you're doomed.
This is our cereal.
And this is honeycomb.
Ah, Honeycomb's big and it's got a big bite.
Post honeycomb cereal's part of a balanced breakfast.
Take honeycomb for your planet.
My people will love the big bite.
Is there another planet with a cereal as big as honeycomb?